Hello and welcome to another Lamp Bible study. My name is James and I'll continue to be the host and Bible reader for Lamp Bible study. And where we're at is we're in Genesis and we're going to start off with Genesis chapter 31. I'm currently reading from an NIV Collegiate Bible and we just left off about Jacob. We're on Jacob and Jacob's flocks increasing because he has blessing. He's the blessing from the Lord. The Lord's blessing him, and Jacob is following in the Lord's footsteps and following the way. And so now we're going to see exactly what happens to Jacob. So thank you so much for joining me again. I'm still it's that springtime and I'm still having some allergies, so hopefully soon that will be going away. But I hope you're doing well. And if not, I hope this Bible study helps you out. It puts a smile on your face. It helps you refocus or focus on something else, something different, something that you love, which is the Lord. So, and again, thank you for joining me as we seek God's wisdom through His holy word. And if you don't know about God or His wisdom, and this is your first time joining me, I hope that through this Bible study and through this reading, that you come to know and understand, and even have the Holy Spirit present, because where there's two or more. So let's get started. We're in Genesis chapter 31. Jacob flees from Laban. Jacob heard that Laban's sons were saying, "Jacob has taken everything our father owned and has gained all this wealth from what belonged to our father." And Jacob noticed that Laban's attitude toward him was not what it had been. So what we're seeing here is possibly a little bit of jealousy, a little bit of envy, a little bit of rage along with it, because basically the Lord was blessing Jacob, and Laban had been blessed by Jacob, but now because Jacob's leaving, he's starting to understand that he didn't have everything. He wasn't he wasn't a part of that blessing. So he's kind of getting that envy, that jealousy going. Then the Lord said to Jacob, "Go back to the land of your fathers and to your relatives, and I will be with you." So Jacob sent word to Rachel and Leah to come out to the fields where his flocks were. He said to them, "I see that your father's attitude toward me is not what it was before, but the God of my father has been with me. You know that I've worked for your father with all my strength, yet your father has cheated me by changing my wages 10 times. However, God has not allowed him to harm me. If he said, 'The speckled ones will be your wages,' then all the flocks gave birth to speckled young. And if he said, 'The streaked ones will be your wages,' then all the flocks bore streaked young. So God has taken away your father's livestock and has given them to me." And so as you can see, basically Laban's flock and such has been decreasing, and Jacob's has continued to increase. And now Laban's kind of starting to act out. Maybe he had for years not really said anything, but now because it's obvious, and he's starting to get jealous. And so Jacob understands, and he knows that he needs to leave and go back to where he came from. And he's going to take his things as well, his possessions as well as his wives. In breeding season, I once had a dream in which I looked up and saw that the male goats mating with the flock were streaked, speckled, or spotted. The angel of God said to me in the dream, "Jacob." I answered, "Here I am." And he said, "Look up and see that all the male goats mating with the flock are streaked, speckled, or spotted. For I have seen all that Laban has been doing to you. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed a pillar and where you made a vow to me. Now leave this land at once and go back to your native land. So there, right there, the Lord had been watching the whole time and noticed that how Laban was treating. Laban was supposed to be following the way as well, and yet it was that moment of envy that let in that greed and that jealousy that lets in that sin, those thoughts that let in that sin, and so he started mistreating Jacob and Jacob, but the Lord was already intervening. The Lord was already knowing what was in Laban's mind and Laban's heart. And so he was already acting on Jacob's behalf, making sure that Jacob was going to be taken care of. So, just reading through that first part about understanding that Jacob had worked for him 7 years for Leah and then another 7 years for Rachel. And because Laban had originally tricked him, he tricked him by marrying, basically getting Jacob drunk, you know, and then providing him his oldest daughter Leah instead of Rachel, whom he asked for, so that way he could, Laban was rid of his oldest daughter, and then come to find out, Jacob really loved Rachel so much that he continued to work for Laban. He worked an additional 7 years, I believe. And so he worked for a total of 14 years. And during that time, obviously, slowly but surely, Laban started, his thoughts and feelings towards Jacob started changing because of envy, jealousy, greed, etc. And when that happens, sin comes in. So thinking about that today, what kind of experiences can you think of in your life? I, for one, have had a similar experience. And like one job in particular that I've had years ago, it was kind of like, it wasn't a dog eat dog type of job, but it almost felt like that because there were rewards for meeting goals. And so when you just do well, everybody's after you. And that similar situation happened to myself where I was doing very well at the position, and it wasn't something that I thought I was the best or special at or better than everybody. I was just doing what I thought the job was. And I didn't even truly know how successful I was until after the award came. And so when that happened, it was like a lot of people who used to talk to me in a more friendlier manner at work, they stopped. It was like I was a challenge now. It was like they saw me in a different way, like I was trying to take something from them, and that definitely wasn't the case at all. And so it was just a difficult situation because I noticed there was a change in attitudes and in feelings and thoughts and visual, people looking at you in a different way, speaking to you in a different way. And so I prayed about it. I prayed a lot about it. And I think some people that I knew and were my colleagues and such, over time stopped feeling that way. One or two I actually spoke up to, I felt led to speak to, and say, hey, nothing's changed, you'll get it next month, or show some type of encouragement to that person. And that helped, of course. That definitely helped, because that's just me. Like, when one person does good, and you want to help other people to do good, so you all shine, you all do very well, and that helps the atmosphere as well. If everybody's winning, everybody's doing a good job. And so, but in other times, in other ways, some, there were still some that from that day never really looked or talked to me the same way again. And it kind of, for a person like myself, was it was kind of like missing an opportunity to be able to continue to encourage, if that was needed, or have that type of relationship where you could be a positive light in that person's life. And so it was, in a way, it was a little bit of a heartbreak or devastation. But at the same time, I had to come to realize and understand that that's just life. That is sometimes what happens. And you have to be prepared, even though we're not always prepared. And you have to cope and work through it. And then you have to move on. You have to continue through your path as the Lord directs you, as what you need to do. And so, what kind of thoughts or feelings come to your mind when reading about Jacob, reading about Laban? How can you relate to this portion, these verses that we've read? What kind of thoughts or feelings come to your mind? How does it make you feel, and what does it make you think? Let's continue to read. Then Rachel and Leah replied, "Do we still have any share in the inheritance of our father's estate? Does he not regard us as foreigners? Not only has he sold us, but he has used up what was paid for us. Surely all the wealth that God took away from our father belongs to us and our children. So do whatever God has told you." That's interesting. See, Leah and Rachel were looking at it as their father may have not even provided them an inheritance. For one, there were girls, and two, women, and two, so it wasn't like he had a son that he was handing his um, possessions down as an inheritance. It was daughters, and so something in their mind made them to believe that their father possibly, probably wouldn't even provide them with an inheritance. And so they're saying, "Look, we think the Lord's doing it." They're already in staunch support of what Jacob's feeling and thinking and saying, and they strongly believe it's because of the Lord. So think about that. So when think about that in your situation, like for instance, in my situation, those people who didn't look at me the same from that point on, no matter how I acted, or positive I acted or said or tried to encourage them, that may be because that's where they were in life, or that's where they are in life, and that's how they were going to be. And it wasn't anything that I could do. It may have been something, or say, it could be something that at that point I could do all I could do, or say all I could say, but now it's up to their decision to follow what's right, or what the Lord's saying for them to do. And so think about that, in our life, in your life as well. How does that make you feel, and what does that make you think? Including regarding how Leah and Rachel felt about their father, and how they believed that God was replacing his wealth and giving it to them. Let's continue to read. Then Jacob put his children and his wives on camels, and he drove all his livestock ahead of him, along with all the goods he had accumulated in Paddan Aram, to go to his father Isaac in the land of Canaan. When Laban had gone to shear his sheep, Rachel stole her father's household gods. Moreover, Jacob deceived Laban and Aramean by not telling him he was running away. So he fled with all he had, and crossing the river, he headed for the hill country of Gilead. Some more information. So now we know that Laban may have not been following the way. Or following it, or in some, so some Bible scholars, some people think that he was mixing religion, and that happens today. Oh my gosh. Mixing and mixing practices and such. So there's a lot here just in these few verses. And it also says something about Rachel. When her father had gone, Rachel went in and stole her father's household gods. Wasn't she in agreement with her sister about that God was taking away Laban's wealth and giving it to them? So it says a little bit about Rachel's character as well now. So now we have some backstory. Now we see that Laban wasn't just having that jealousy and envy coming on, but there was also hindering blocks, stuff that was hindering him from completely allowing himself to have faith in the Lord. He had these household gods. That says a lot. That gives you enough meaning and depth as to what was going on and kind of where this is out of left field this is coming from for Laban, because we're led to believe that Jacob was told by his parents, his mother in particular, Sarah, Isaac and Sarah, that he needed to go to her family's, or the family cousin, and find a wife there. And that's what he did. But now we're finding out that Laban had household gods. We're also finding out that Rachel was taking them. So right now, if we're reading this directly, we can't go into assumptions. So right now, she stole her father's household gods. We don't know why in particular. Did she do it because she was mad at her father? Did she do it because those may have had value? She thought, oh, let me take these too. Did she do it because maybe she wanted to worship those gods? It says a lot, but it also gives us thought. It also gives us things to think about. Was it right that she was doing that to begin with, period? Was it right for her to go in and steal those, her father's gods? For the way, they mean nothing. For believing in God and knowing who God is and knowing that these were man-made, those mean nothing. So what was her thought, or what was her feeling? Was it revenge, or what was it? What kind of thoughts or feelings come up to your mind? How does it make you feel, and what does it make you think? Quick question though on that. If you've been in a family, have you been in a situation where a family member did something like that? Took something, or wanted to take something, or do something to their parent or sibling or cousin or grandmother, grandfather, or father, stepfather, whomever it is within the family. how how would you deal with it? What kind of thoughts or feelings come up? And of course, how does it make you feel and what does it make you think? Let's continue to read. Laban pursues Jacob. On the third day, Laban was told that Jacob had fled. Taking his relatives with him, he pursued Jacob for 7 days and caught up with him in the hill country of Gilead. Then God came to Laban the Aramean in a dream at night and said to him, "Be careful not to say anything to Jacob, either good or bad." Jacob had pitched his tent in the hill country of Gilead when Laban overtook him, and Laban and his relatives camped there too. Then Laban said to Jacob, "What have you done? You've deceived me, and you've carried off my daughters like captives in war. Why did you run off secretly and deceive me? Why didn't you tell me so I could send you away with joy and singing to the music of tambourines and harps? You didn't even let me kiss my grandchildren and my daughters goodbye. You have done a foolish thing. I have the power to harm you, but last night the God of your father said to me, 'Be careful not to say anything to Jacob, either good or bad.' Now you have gone off because you long to return to your father's house. But why did you steal my gods?" Dun dun dun. It's like one of those. It's just one of those moments. He's confronting him, and the confrontation ended in a question, and it was, "Why are you stealing my gods?" If Jacob followed the way, why would he be stealing Laban's gods? Let's continue to read. Jacob answered Laban, "I was afraid because I thought you would take your daughters away from me by force. But if you find anyone who has your gods, he shall not live. In the presence of our relatives, see for yourself whether there is anything of yours here with me. And if so, take it." Now Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen the gods. So Laban went into Jacob's tent and into Leah's tent and into the tent of the two maidservants, but he found nothing. After he came out of Leah's tent, he entered Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken the household gods and put them inside her camel's saddle and was sitting on them. Laban searched through everything in the tent but found nothing. Rachel said to her father, "Don't be angry, my lord." This is, I don't know, I'm reading this right now. It's quite funny because she's straight up sitting on him. He's probably like furiously looking around, right? And she's like, probably watching him. Like, maybe slow blinking, like. Oh, this is so funny. Okay. So I mean, you could think that maybe she was fearful or something, but I don't see it. I don't see it for Rachel. Like, how I'm seeing her character, she was probably like, look over there too. I'm just saying. It's just a thought. I'm not quite sure how you are feeling, Rachel, but I'm just, right now while I'm reading, that's how I feel. Maybe another time I won't feel that way, but right now. Let's continue to read. Rachel said to her father, "Don't be angry, my lord, that I cannot stand up in your presence. Of course not. I'm having my period." So he searched, but could not find the household gods. Now, coming from personal experience, I do have sisters, and that um, I'm having my period was definitely an excuse for a lot of things. So, but just still across the board, what kind? I know you have to. If you don't have thoughts or feelings, I mean, read it again. But like, what kind of thoughts or feelings come to your mind during this portion? How does it make you feel, and what does it make you think? Let's continue to read. Jacob was angry and took Laban to task. What is my crime? He asked Laban. What sin have I committed that you hunt me down? Now that you have searched through all my goods, what have you found that belongs to your household? Put it here in front of your relatives and mine, and let them judge between the two of us. I have been with you for 20 years now. Your sheep and goats have not miscarried, nor have I eaten rams from your flocks. I did not bring you animals torn by wild beasts. I bore the loss myself, and you demanded payment from me for whatever was stolen by day or night. This was my situation. The heat consumed me in the daytime and the cold at night, and sleep fled from my eyes. It was like this for the 20 years I was in your household. I worked for you 14 years for your 2 daughters and 6 years for your flocks, and you changed my wages 10 times. If the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac had not been with me, you would surely have sent me away empty-handed. But God has seen my hardship and the toil of my hands, and last night he rebuked you. Interesting. So, a quick pause. So, we know that Jacob's leaving. Jacob's leaving to go back home, and do remember from previous Bible study, Esau, he left because of Esau. He left not only because of Esau, but he needed to find him a wife, and his mother didn't want him to marry any of the Hittites that were around, so, or the Canaanite women, so he had to leave, and his brother wanted to kill him because Jacob had got the blessing typically of the firstborn. So, and now here we at, Laban had been, Jacob deceived his, helped deceive his brother, whether he intentionally did it or it was the help from his mother, Rebecca, or I think I mixed up some names earlier, but it's okay. We'll fix it. I think it's mother's Rebecca, right? Okay. Well, anyways, he got help from his mom, and then because I'll go back later. He got help from his mom and deceived his brother, and now he was been deceived several times, and now he's taken Laban to task. He's starting to get angry too. Let's continue to read. Laban answered Jacob, "The women are my daughters, the children are my children, and the flocks are my flocks. All you see is mine. Yet what can I do today about these daughters of mine, or about the children they have borne? Come now, let's make a covenant, you and I, and let it serve as a witness between us." So Jacob took a stone and set it up as a pillar. He said to his relatives, "Gather some stones." So they took stones and piled them in a heap, and they ate there by the heap. Laban called it Jagar Sahadutha, and Jacob called it Gilead. This reminds me of a verse that we're going to go over where it says there's a time for everything, and I believe there's a time for collecting stones is in there. Interesting. I think. I'm trying to remember, but wow. Stuff is repeated throughout the Bible as some conference, something that's, yes, this is correct. Let's continue to read. Laban said, "This heap is a witness between you and me today. That is why it was called Gilead. It was also called Mizpah. take note, Mizpah and Gilead, Mizpah. Because he said, may the Lord keep watch between you and me when we are away from each other. If you mistreat my daughters, or if you take any wives besides my daughters, even though no one is with us, remember that God is a witness between you and me. Laban also said to Jacob, here is this heap, and here is this pillar I have set up between you and me. This heap is a witness, and this pillar is a witness, that I will not go past this heap to go to your side to harm you, and that you will not go past this heap and pillar to my side to harm me. May the God of Abraham and the God of Nahor, the God of their father, judge between us. Nahor was on his side, not Jacob's, but Nahor was the... Okay, anyways. So Jacob took an oath in the name of the fear of his father Isaac. He offered a sacrifice there in the hill country and invited his relatives to a meal. After they had eaten, they spent the night there. Early the next morning, Laban kissed his grandchildren and his daughters and blessed them. Then he left and returned home. So what we have here is Laban is now understanding that his possessions are gone. He doesn't know where they're at, but he didn't find them, so he can't say that Jacob, he can't continue with his accusation. But he still got to see his daughters and his grandchildren and still kiss them goodbye and, spend his last moments with them, possibly for the rest of his life. He doesn't know. But that they would be parting on good terms. And so to the point where Jacob made an oath with him and offered a sacrifice to God. So what kind of thoughts or feelings come up when you read this portion, or when we read this portion over together? Is there things in here that can relate to your life? How does it make you feel, and what does it make you think? Let's continue to read. Jacob prepares to meet Esau. Ooh. Remember that. Remember how Jacob left Esau to begin with. So let's see what's going on. Jacob also went on his way, and the angels of God met him. When Jacob saw them, he said, this is the camp of God. So he named the place Mahanaim. Jacob sent messengers. Okay, quick pause. If I am butchering these words, just say it correctly for yourself if you know how to say it correctly. In the comment section, of course, you can always leave a comment. Jacob sent messengers ahead of him to his brother Esau in the land of Seir, the country of Edom. He instructed them, this is what you are to say to my master Esau. Your servant Jacob says, I have been staying with Laban and have remained there till now. I have cattle and donkeys, sheep and goats, men servants and maid servants. Now I am sending this message to my Lord, that I may find favor in your eyes. He doesn't know how Esau's gonna... how would you feel? It's been 20 years now, and you're coming back to meet a family member that you didn't leave on good terms with. I know all about that. I'm just saying, whether I'm innocent or guilty, I don't know how, but when you have family members, things can happen, and it's just one of those things. You can get an argument, or they could accuse you of wrongdoing and you have no idea what they're talking about. You could have done something. You don't know unless people communicate. When there's no communication, you end up not parting on good terms, and that can happen. And sometimes bad things happen, and they are learning tools, because did you give it to God? And if you did, this may have been part of your life flow, or your life going through it. It may have been something to help develop you to think better, to change, or to understand how you felt, if it was correct. So to reaffirm you, or to change you, or to provide you understanding, or provide you a chance to learn and grow. Just a lot of thoughts here. Let's continue to read. When the messenger returned to Jacob, they said, "We went to your brother Esau, and now he is coming to meet you, and 400 men are with him." Uh-oh. How do you think Jacob feels when he hears something like that? Typically, when that happens in those times, and even now, I mean, I've heard it like, "Yeah, we're gonna come up on you." They're gonna, you hear it, "Yeah, I'm gonna bring my friends, and we're gonna." And so in this case, this is what Jacob's hearing from his messengers. And how would you feel? What would you think? How would this make you feel, and what would it make you think? Let's continue to read. In great fear and distress, Jacob divided the people who were with him into two groups, and the flocks and herds and camels as well. He thought, if Esau comes and attacks one group, the group that is left may escape. Wonder why he's thinking this. Then Jacob prayed, "O God of my father Abraham, God of my father Isaac, O Lord, who said to me, 'Go back to your country and your relatives, and I will make you prosper.' I am unworthy of all the kindness and faithfulness you have shown your servant. I had only my staff when I crossed this Jordan, but now I have become two groups. Save me, I pray, from the hand of my brother Esau, for I am afraid he will come and attack me, and also the mothers with their children. But you have said, 'I will surely make you prosper, and will make your descendants like the sand of the sea, which cannot be counted.'" So a couple of things. One thing before I go on, one moment. I just want to go back because it's coming back into my head again. Okay, so Isaac and Rebecca. Okay, so Rebecca is his mother. So if I said Sarah or Sarai earlier, they have similar situations, as in Sarai wasn't going to have children, and so Rachel was similar, and then they both ended up having children, but Rachel, I don't think, was that old. But apologize, it was Rebecca that helped scheme. So correcting that. And then this portion right here, where it comes to him talking to God, praying to God. When you do say prayer, when you do when you do have a relationship with God, and when you do have a conversation with God, it's okay to talk to him and utilize and show him that you are of understanding, and utilizing the Holy Word, repeating things that in the Holy Word. It's okay to do that, to have a relationship with the Lord and say something like, "I am afraid, but you have said, I will surely make you prosper, and will make your descendants like the sand of the sea." So he's giving back the message that he received to the Lord. And it's good to do that. It's okay to do that. The Lord likes to hear that you're listening, that you're taking in and you're comprehending what he's been trying to tell you, what he's telling you. And you're humbling yourself, and you're giving him the glory, and you're giving him the praise by repeating it to him. It's not the same as like the devil. Unfortunately, the devil knows the word too. The difference is he doesn't use it in the correct text. He uses it for himself. And that's a difference between your walk with God, because we can follow the Lord. The devil has already made his decision, and he's already in eternity, and he's already made his decision. His decision was not to follow the Lord. He wanted to be worshipped as a creator, even though he can't create anything. I mean, he can help make chaos and such, but so, and it's just one of those things that when you look, you can look at how Jacob was talking to the Lord, and we can utilize that. I can utilize that. You can utilize that in your walk with the Lord, in your understanding. And so, reading these passages, what kind of thoughts or feelings come to your mind? Is it something that a time where you can relate, where you were going through something and a song came up, a hymn, a gospel song, some scripture? You're seeing something joyous and people reacting to it, and maybe scripture like the fruit of the Spirit comes up in your mind. You're like, wow, why did that come up in my mind? Continue that thought. Continue on that, because that is your relationship with the Lord. Think about that. Meditate on that and glorify that something like that came up. Thank the Lord for that. He's showing that he's with you. What kind of thoughts or feelings do you have? How does it make you feel, and what does it make you think? Let's continue to read. He spent the night there, and from what he had with him, he selected a gift for his brother Esau: 200 female goats and 20 male goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 female camels with their young, 40 cows and 10 bulls, and 20 female donkeys and 10 male donkeys. He put them in the care of his servants, each herd by itself, and said to his servants, "Go ahead of me and keep some space between the herds." He instructed the one in the lead, "When my brother Esau meets you and asks, 'To whom do you belong, and where are you going, and who owns all these animals in front of you?' then you are to say, 'They belong to your servant Jacob. They are a gift sent to my lord Esau, and he is coming behind us.'" So he's trying to, we do this, we try to force, it just happened recently in my Sunday school class. You try to force a reaction or opinion onto someone because you've done something, or you're going to do something, or you're talking about something, whether you're in a regret state or not. And in this past case, it was said like a regret, but it wasn't a regret. It was like, I did this just to let you know. And it's like telling somebody you shouldn't react. Like, you may react this way, you really shouldn't, but you may go to, and that's okay. You're like providing somebody permission, to act the way that they're going to act. And do understand that this one's difficult, because we're all individuals. We're all human beings. We all have the right of thought process. We all have the right to accept the Lord or reject him. And those who reject him do understand that you're rejecting, and that's the only thing, literally the only thing, the only sin that will make your eternity hell. I mean, and it's not like a time like you'll get used to it. It's not that way. And we'll get into all that. Accepting the Lord, you get to be with the Lord forever and ever, in love, and in happiness and joy and peace forever and ever. Okay, so we all have the choice. We all have different reactions too. We're all not the same. So there's a lot to compare. Oh, this was another thing that I was thinking in my mind about snowflakes. Snowflakes, they're all different, right? Not one is the same. Scientifically speaking, and now, which is just knowledge, which is just wisdom. Not one snowflake is the same. However, it is snow, right? So think about that in different humans. Not one is exactly the same, and we all think differently. You can unfortunately compare it also, you can also utilize snow as in not it being white and fluffy and soft and delicate, but you can also use that in terms of what sin is. Sin may be different, but it's all the same, as in the Lord can't be with it at all. And that there's only one thing that will prevent you from being with the Lord, and that is the rejection of his son Jesus. So again, that comes up, that it's one of those thoughts that came into my mind the past couple of days, even around the previous Bible study, but I didn't mention it. Or was it? I don't remember. Can't remember. But anyways, it's a thought. It's something to think about in your walk with God, in our reading. And so Jacob was trying to force, potentially, he was trying to help out a situation. So you don't have to think about it as like a force, like this is what he was trying to soften a blow. He was trying to soften it up as well. Like you can think of it in many different ways. Like maybe he wasn't trying to force Esau in a certain way, but he was trying to slowly come back in good graces. What kind of thoughts or feelings come to your mind about these passages? How does it make you feel, and what does it make you think? Quick warning, we're probably going to go over again. I try to make them an hour, but thus is the Bible study, and that's happens. I love it. I love it. And so he also, I'm going to reread this. He also instructed the second and the third and all the others who followed the herds, you are to say the same thing to Esau when you meet him. And be sure to say, your servant Jacob is coming behind us. For he thought, I will pacify him with these gifts I am sending on ahead. Later, when I see him, perhaps he will receive me. So right there. So Jacob's gifts went on ahead of him, but he himself spent the night in the camp. Thoughts, feelings, how does it make you feel, and what does it make you think? Let's continue to read. Jacob wrestles with God. That night, Jacob got up and took his 2 wives, his 2 maidservants, and his 11 sons, and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. Just let you know, this is a whole sermon right here. Okay. After he had sent them across the stream, he sent over all his possessions. So Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him till daybreak. When the man saw that he could not overpower him, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip, so that his hip was wrenched as he wrestled with the man. Then the man said, let me go, for it is daybreak. But Jacob replied, I will not let you go unless you bless me. The man asked him, what is your name? Jacob answered. Jacob, he answered. Then the man said, your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with men and have overcome. Jacob said, please tell me your name. But he replied, why do you ask my name? Then he blessed him there. So Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, it is because I saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared. The sun rose above him as he passed Peniel, and he was limping because of his hip. Therefore, to this day, the Israelites do not eat the tendon attached to the socket of the hip, because the socket of Jacob's hip was touched near the tendon. Ooh, this is a lot here. there's a lot. I mean, there's so many different things you can take from this. Jacob sent all of his possessions, all of his earthly belongings ahead of him because he was kind of worried that those would be, you know, do not store up treasures here, where rust and moth and all that, we're going to learn about that. And that comes to mind. But he was also scared and worried because he loved his children, he loved his wives. So that was going on. And then now all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he's wrestling with the man. And he wrestled with this man pretty much all night until dawn. And he refused to, he didn't want to stop until the stranger blessed him. Which it makes you think. It makes you really think. Did Jacob know that this was holy? Does he think it was an angel? Did he think it was God? Or was it just more random? Someone just out of thin air was angry and he caught on. Maybe somebody that Esau knew, or a friend of Esau or something. He wrestled with them all night. But then he wanted the person to bless him. And you could take it another way. Have you ever had a conflict with the person and then at the end ask them to pray for you? Have you ever asked an enemy to pray for you? Have you ever asked someone who did you wrong to pray for you? Have you ever asked someone who is maybe not a believer to pray for you? There's a lot to think about. And so lots of sermons, lots of different ways that this is taken. And what does the Holy Spirit, what kind of thoughts or feelings come to your mind? How do you think Jacob felt wrestling with this man? A lot of people even say, a lot of preachers even say he was wrestling because he was filled with such different emotions. And then he didn't give up. And so the man did bless Jacob. And Jacob tried to ask him his name, and he said, why do you ask my name? And then he blessed him. And in those times, receiving a blessing like that, and how this man spoke, led him to believe that this may have been a image of God. I'm not quite sure. I've heard some people people say that they think that this was Jesus too, before Jesus became man. I'm not sure. It does. Jesus is God. And this says Jacob wrestles with God, so it could be just God. He struggled with God. And with God, because you have struggled with God and with men and have overcome. He struggled because he struggled in his life and he overcame his issues that he had. And he was seeking that forgiveness. He was seeking to be humble back to his brother. So he went from possibly beforehand being the favorite, and knowing it and being like, oh, my older brother, he's such and such and such, to now he doesn't feel that way. He doesn't act that way. He really has regard and respect for his brother. What kind of thoughts or feelings come up in your mind? How does it make you feel, and what does it make you think? Let's continue to read. Jacob meets Esau. Jacob looked up, and there was Esau coming with his 400 men. So he divided the children among Leah, Rachel, and the two maidservants. He put the maidservants and the children in front, Leah and her children next, and Rachel and Joseph in the rear. Did you notice the order? The maidservants in the front, Leah in the middle, and Rachel, you know, because he loved Rachel, and her children in the rear. He himself went on ahead and bowed down to the ground 7 times as he approached his brother. So we already know the Lord's at work, because as you could see, if he really was in trouble, but that's just wrong. But Esau ran to meet Jacob and embraced him. He threw his arms around his neck and kissed him, and they wept. Then Esau looked up and saw the women and children. "Who are these with you?" he asked. Jacob answered, "They are the children God has graciously given your servant." Then the maidservants and their children approached and bowed down. Next, Leah and her children came and bowed down. Last of all came Joseph and Rachel, and they too bowed down. Esau asked, "What do you mean by all these droves I met?" "To find favor in your eyes, my lord," he said. But Esau said, "I already have plenty, my brother. Keep what you have for yourself." Remember, Esau was also blessed too. He still was blessed. So, let's continue to read. "No, please," said Jacob, "if I have found favor in your eyes, accept this gift from me. For to see your face is like seeing the face of God. Now that you have received me favorably." See, we were all made in God's image, and he is humbling himself to God and his brother. And where 2 or more are there the Lord shall be. So he was not only confessing to his brother, but he was confessing to the Lord and giving thanks. It says a lot. Please understand that important part. Please accept the present that was brought to you, for God has been gracious to me, and I have all I need. And because Jacob insisted, Esau accepted it. Amen. Then Esau said, "Let us be on our way, I'll accompany you." But Jacob said to him, "My Lord knows that the children are tender, and that I must care for the ewes and cows that are nursing their young. If they are driven hard, just one day all the animals will die. So let my Lord go on ahead of his servant, while I move along slowly at the pace of the droves before me and that of the children, until I come to my Lord in Seir." Esau said, "Then let me leave some of my men with you." "But why do that?" Jacob asked. "Just let me find favor in your eyes of my Lord. And let me find favor in the eyes of my Lord." So that day Esau started on his way back to Seir. Jacob, however, went to Succoth, where he built a place for himself and made shelters for his livestock. That is why the place is called Succoth. After Jacob came to Paddan Aram, he arrived safely at the city of Shechem in Canaan, and camped within sight of the city. For 100 pieces of silver he brought from the sons of Hamor, the father of Shechem, the plot of ground where he pitched his tent. There he set up an altar and called it El Eloi Israel. Amen. What kind of thoughts or feelings come up to your mind when we go over this? How does it make you feel, and what does it make you think? Let's continue to read. Dinah and the Shechemites. I'm not quite sure on that one. Now Dinah, the daughter Leah had born to Jacob, went out to visit the women of the land. When Shechem, son of Hamor the Hivite, I remember that. Okay, the ruler of that area, saw her, he took her and violated her. His heart was drawn to Dinah, daughter of Jacob, and he loved the girl and spoke tenderly to her. And Shechem said to his father named Hamor, "Give me this girl as my wife." When Jacob heard that his daughter Dinah had been defiled, his sons were in the fields with his livestock. So he kept quiet about it until they came home. Then Shechem's father Hamor went out to talk with Jacob. Now Jacob's sons had come in from the fields as soon as they heard what had happened. They were filled with grief and fury because their sister was violated. I know that Shechem had done a disgraceful thing in Israel by lying with Jacob's daughter, a thing that should not be done. But Hamor said to them, "My son Shechem has his heart set on your daughter. Please give her to him as his wife. Intermarry with us, give us your daughters, and take our daughters for yourselves. You can settle among us. The land is open to you. Live in it, trade in it, and acquire property in it." Oh, this isn't going to go so well. Then Shechem said to Dinah's father and brothers, "Let me find favor in your eyes, and I will give you whatever you ask. Make the price for the bride and the gift I am to bring as great as you like, and I'll pay whatever you ask me. Only give me the girl as my wife." After you already violated. Okay. Because their sister Dinah had been defiled, Jacob's sons replied deceitfully as they spoke to Shechem and his father Hamor. They said to them, "We can't do such a thing. We can't give our sister to a man who is not circumcised." Remember from a previous Bible study, a couple of Bible studies ago, when I said, remember about circumcision? How it's going to come up in different kinds of ways, and this is going to be one of them. Ooh, that would be a disgrace to us. We will give our consent to you on one condition only, that you become like us by circumcising all your males. Then we will give you our daughters and take your daughters for ourselves. We'll settle among you and become one people with you. But if you will not agree to be circumcised, we'll take your sister and go. We'll take our sister and go. Their proposal seemed good to Hamor and his son Shechem. The young man, who was the most honored of all his father's household, lost no time in doing what they said, because he was delighted with Jacob's daughter. So Hamor and his son Shechem went to the gate of their city to speak to their fellow townsmen. "These men are friendly toward us," they said. "Let them live in our land and trade in it. The land has plenty of room for them. We can marry their daughters and they can marry ours. But the men will consent to live with us as one people only on the condition that our males be circumcised as they themselves are. Won't their livestock, their property, and all their other animals become ours? So let us give our consent to them, and they will settle among us." So remember, they were seeing that Jacob and his family were wealthy because they had all this livestock and all these things, and so they had already did some terrible things by his son violating, but we're going to see there's going to be some things coming up right now. All the men who went out of the city gate agreed with Hamor and his son Shechem, and every male in the city was circumcised. We talked about the pain before circumcision. So that's why it happens most of the time when you're a baby. For males, lots of pain. It's a very sensitive area. So this is going to be utilized as an advantage. Let's continue to read. 3 days later, while all of them were still in pain, I'm going to read that little part one more time. 3 days later, while all of them were still in pain, because it hurts. Two of Jacob's sons, Simeon and Levi, and they didn't have the type of, they didn't have go to the hospital and get pain relievers back then. They may have had something, but two of Jacob's sons, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, took their swords and attacked the unsuspecting city, killing every male. They put Hamor and his son Shechem to the sword and took Dinah from Shechem's house and left. The sons of Jacob came upon the dead bodies and looted the city where their sister had been defiled. They seized their flocks and herds and donkeys and everything else of theirs in the city and out in the fields. They carried off all their wealth and all their women and children, taking as plunder everything in the houses. So, circumcision. good for health. It's a custom, came about all the way back in the Old Testament, and also is utilized for incapacitating people because they're in too much pain to fight back. Let's continue to read. Then Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, "You have brought trouble on me by making me a stench to the Canaanites and Perizzites, the people living in this land. We are few in number, and if they join forces against me and attack me, I and my household will be destroyed." But they replied, Should he have treated our sister like a prostitute? There's several sermons in here too. So, if you had a sibling and they were violated, how would you feel? Especially if you were close to that person. You were close to that family member. If you had someone in your family that you knew and that was violated by someone you may have known, what kind of thoughts or feelings come to your mind? Does it just flow over you like, oh, okay? I highly doubt it. I hear all the time. I mean, you can take this even different ways. If you're a parent, how would you feel if you found out somebody violated your son or daughter? Violated as in rape. So, one thing to do immediately is to go to God. It's to pray. Because with those thoughts and those feelings, and pray with your son, daughter, mother, father, whomever was the victim. Comfort them. You can do that. You can comfort someone who has been hurt and is upset. You can also encourage them to go to God, to give it to Jesus, because Jesus does fight our battles. And you can listen. You can listen because maybe there is something that you can do. Maybe there will be punishment on here on earth. Maybe they will get caught. They will go to jail, or something. Some type of punishment could happen. It brings up a lot, and if you've not been in that type of situation, that's why you have to kind of think about it in a way as if somewhere close to you were to have an issue or to have something similar. It brings a lot of emotion. Emotions are valid, and when you're walking in the way, you just don't want sin to be. You're not letting your emotions, your thoughts, or their emotions and thoughts and their actions invoke sin from you or from the victim. So there's a time and there's a place for everything, and so give it to the Lord. Give it straight to the Lord. Give it straight to the Lord, and you will be surprised and amazed at the outcome. People tend to think that, especially nowadays, that because it's diluted when it comes from sin, when it comes from the devil, because the devil knows the word too. And so diluted means that people feel like there's no meaning in prayer, there's no meaning in someone saying give it to God. That is absolutely not the case. If there was faith, you one of faith could tell a mountain to move and it will move. There's so much there. There's so much there that people need to understand, and if they can't understand, read it. Pick it up and read it. Read the book. Read it. Meditate. Take time out. And that's another thing. It's time. It may take time. It may not take any time. You may be in grief and something's already happened to that person or those people. You never know. And what that person did is not good, and everything is under the eyes of the Lord. So do know that. Things that you can do or things you can think about, we'll go over, because a lot of this is going to be here. But things you don't want to do is just act on sin. Now, two of her brothers, Simeon and Levi, have acted. We're going to learn later on what that is going to mean. What kind of thoughts or feelings come up to you? How would you feel, and what does it make you think? Let's continue to read. Jacob returns to Bethel. Then God said to Jacob, "Go up to Bethel and settle there, and build an altar there to God, who appeared to you when you were fleeing from your brother Esau." So Jacob said to his household and to all who were with him, "Get rid of the foreign gods you have with you, and purify yourselves, and change your clothes. Then come, let us go up to Bethel, where I will build an altar to God, who answered me in the day of my distress, and who has been with me wherever I have gone." So they gave Jacob all the foreign gods they had and their rings in their ears, and Jacob buried them under the oak at Shechem. Then they set out, and the terror of God fell upon the towns all around them, so that no one pursued them. You see what happens when you just follow in the Lord's footsteps? And now Jacob, whether Jacob knew before that they had these gods with them, these foreign gods, these things that man made, or not, now he does know. And if he did know, then now he's purifying himself of it. He allowed it to happen, now no more. A lot can be said from here. Jacob and all the people with him came to Luz, that is Bethel, in the land of Canaan. There he built an altar, and he called the place El Bethel, because it was there that God revealed himself to him when he was fleeing from his brother. Now Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died and was buried under the oak below Bethel. So it was named Allon Bachoth. After Jacob returned from Paddan Aram, God appeared to him again and blessed him. God said to him, "Your name is Jacob, but you will no longer be called Jacob. Your name will be Israel." So he named him Israel. And God said to him, I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and increase in number. A nation and a community of nations will come from you, and kings will come from your body. The land I gave to Abraham and Isaac I also give to you, and I will give this land to your descendants after you. Then God went up from him at the place where he had talked with him. Jacob set up a stone pillar at the place where God had talked with him, and he poured out a drink offering on it. He also poured oil on it. Jacob called the place where God had talked with him Bethel. What kind of thoughts or feelings come up when we read this portion? That God's reminding him of the promise, and he's telling them that he was giving that promise to Jacob, who is now he's calling Israel. He's giving that promise to Israel. How does it make you feel, and what does it make you think? Let's continue to read. The deaths of Rachel and Isaac. Then they moved on from Bethel. While they were still some distance from Ephrath, Rachel began to give birth and had great difficulty. And as she was having great difficulty in childbirth, the midwife said to her, "Don't be afraid, for you have another son." As she breathed her last, for she was dying, she named her son Ben Ani, but his father named him Benjamin. So Rachel died and was buried on the way to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. Take note, it's very important. Over her tomb, Jacob set up a pillar, and to this day that pillar marks Rachel's tomb. Israel moved on again and pitched his tent beyond Migdal Adar. While Israel was living in that region, Reuben went in and slept with his father's concubine, Bilhah, and Israel heard of it. Oh boy. His son, Reuben, just slept with one of his father's concubines. Jacob had 12 sons. The sons of Leah, Reuben, the firstborn of Jacob, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. And remember, Simeon and Levi were the ones that. So you got Reuben done did something. Simeon and Levi done did something. Judah's going to do something. You wait and see. Issachar and Zebulun. The sons of Rachel, Joseph and Benjamin. The sons of Rachel's maidservant, Bilhah, Dan and Naphtali. The sons of Leah's maidservant, Zilpah, maidservant Zilpah, Gad and Asher. These were the sons of Jacob who were born to him in Paddan Aram. He has 12 sons. Remember it, very important. Because those 12 sons become something. Jacob came home to his father Isaac in Mamre near Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac had stayed. Isaac lived 180 years. Then he breathed his last and died and was gathered to his people, old and full of years. And his sons Esau and Jacob buried him. So that's a nice way to end. His sons Jacob and Esau had made amends and they buried their father. So over those verses, including information, starting to more information about the Israel's children and his 12 sons. What kind of thoughts or feelings come up to your mind? How does it make you feel, and what does it make you think? Let's do a quick review. Jacob flees from Laban. So remember, Jacob, he needed to go, and he felt like he had to go in a hurry because he felt like Laban wasn't going to be nice to him, and because he already wasn't being nice to him. So he ended up leaving in a hurry to where Laban pursues Jacob. Laban caught up with them. Not only did he catch up with them, but he accused him of stealing the idols, his household idols. Now we know that Laban may have not been accurately following the way. If he was definitely mixing religions. Then you have Rachel. Rachel stole those gods, and then she hid them underneath herself and said she couldn't get up because of her womanhood thing. So then we have Jacob prepares to meet Esau. Remember, Jacob had left because he thought his brother was going to kill him, because his brother said he was going to kill him. He was in a rage. And on Jacob's way to go back home, potentially get killed by his brother, he ends up wrestling with God. And he asked God to bless him, and the Lord blessed him and changed his name to Israel. So then Jacob meets his brother. He aligns his family in a particular way, though. But those he, maybe not have cared for as much in the front, and those where he cared for in the back. Do we do that? Shows so much humanistic qualities. all these people were human too. Yes, he may have followed in the way, but he's still man. There's still sin there. And he still has thoughts and feelings himself. And look what just happened. I mean, it says it right here. With all good intentions, but he had his family in an order that he wanted to have them in. He didn't need it. Because Esau came and hugged him and gave him a kiss, and, and they both wept. Because much time had passed. And it's another reason to not have grudges and not hold petty things. Everything in life is petty. Especially when you have arguments with your family and such. Life is short. It's like a puff of air compared to eternity. So take the time now to love one another. Love your brother and sister, even if you have been mistreated, even if you've been the person that was mistreating other people. Stop. Take the time to change. Learn, grow, confirm, reaffirm yourself in the word. Dinah and Shechem. Dinah, Israel's daughter, was raped. And because of that, Simeon and Levi went and killed, the brothers, they plotted and they said, hey, you want to get in with us, our family, circumcise yourself. They used circumcision, which was a covenant between the Lord and man, for the purpose of going and killing those people. And they justified it by saying, well, was it okay for our sister to be treated like a prostitute? So we'll see what's going to happen as a result of that. And then Jacob returns to Bethel, and he gets another visit from God. And God reminds him that his new name is Israel. And then shortly after, sometimes the Bible puts stuff, even though it's after, it may have been before, I'm not quite sure. But in this case, we'll just say it was after the deaths of Rachel and Isaac happened. And so Rachel gave birth to her last son, which was Benjamin, very important. And then it went over the 12 children of Israel, and how Jacob and Esau buried their father Abraham. What kind of thoughts or feelings come to your mind when you read this? How does it make you feel, and what does it make you think? Okay, well, thank you very much once again for joining in another Lamp Bible Study. Lamp Bible Study, I always say there's going to be laughter, there's going to be seriousness, there could be some tears, but it's growing and understanding and seeking God's wisdom through His holy word. And so there's a lot we went over. There's a lot that we didn't go over. And of course, I'll swing back through Genesis and these particular chapters again, maybe in a different translation. And so we'll go over all of that. And so thank you so much for joining me. I hope, please continue to pray for me, and I will continue to pray for you. Lamp Bible Studies do happen every Tuesday and Thursday, so please continue to join. And I hope these are a blessing to you. I always also put out highlights just in case you don't have the full time. I try to keep them to an hour, but as you can see, they do go over. And, you get those good times, man, getting in that word, getting the Bible study, getting in a sermon or such, and it goes over, and that's okay. It's that joy. It's that joy in your heart. It's that peace. It's that love that's there, and you just want to continue. And it's also something that you want to spread. You want to spread to others. You want them to understand. You want you to know. I want you to know. I want you to understand. I want you to feel that touch of love that's in there, because it's correct. It's true. It's true. It's only from the Lord. It's only from our Savior. So thank you very much, my brother and my sister, my mother and my father, and just continue to pray and have a walk with the Lord. If you don't have a walk with the Lord, I pray that you will have a walk with the Lord, that you will open up to the Lord and you will understand and know that what you hear, what you're feeling, what you think is the Lord talking to you. And listen. So thank you again. Thank you very much. And more flashlights are to come as well. Wherever you are, have a blessed morning, a blessed afternoon, a blessed day. I said that wrong. Blessed morning, blessed day, blessed afternoon, blessed evening, and a blessed night. God bless.